What's up, Ant City, and welcome back. Well, not back. This is the first time for the channel, actually, to a Gekishin Squadra video. So, if you haven't been keeping up with the channel lately, I have been streaming Gekishin Squadra every day. So, I thought, why not make a video out of this since I'm going to put this like I'm going to be streaming this right now too. I am streaming as I'm recording this. So I was like, why not make this into its own video? So I want to discuss what characters I think could come to Squadra in the future and what roles they could be. So let's just get right into it. First, we're going to start off with honorable mentions. So this section is going to be characters who I think would be cool to get added, but I don't think will for one reason or another. So we'll just start it off. So first is Mercenary Tao. I think he'd be sick. I would love to have Tao added into the game, but he's already a helper. So until we see them decide to just, bite the bullet and add characters who are already helpers as their own characters, I don't think he'll get added. But I do think if he were to be added, technical could be a good role for him. I think that's what he would be. I'm only saying that because he's an assassin. That's his role in the series. So I imagine that he would play very similarly to Hit. That's just kind of like where my mind's at with him. That's why I think he could be a tech if he was added, because I don't see him being tank. That doesn't really make any sense. And then damage, the thing with damage you're going to notice throughout this video is damage is kind of just the safe option for characters. I pick damage for characters a lot, but I'm like, I don't know. But I do have some characters on here who I'm confident would be like make sense as technical or tank. But moving on, we've got Android 16. Again, he would be awesome tank, especially because, we've got 18 as damage already and 17 as technical. So I think 16 as tank would make a perfect sense. But again, he's a boss in the game already. So again, just like I said with the helpers, unless they bite the bullet and add bosses as characters, maybe if they change the map one day or something. Like what if one season they completely update the map and change all the bosses or something? I don't know. But until that happens, I think 16 probably won't get added, but he would be sick. Moving on, we've got Kaba. Kaba got so shafted to me, man. Like, we have Kale and Caulifla both in the game, but not Kaba. But I think if he were to get added, again, damage, I guess you could maybe argue technical, because then you could do 2 damages per team, though, because with damage, you could still run Kale, Caulifla, and Kaba together. But again, he's a helper. Like, he got extra shafted because he got made into a helper. I think he's cool enough to get his own character. I think the only only way they could maybe make him work as his own character is if he just starts as Super Saiyan and goes Super Saiyan 2. But I think he would go, I'm thinking damage for him, but we'll get more into what made me decide on each role when we get to the actual characters. But I went damage. Again, damage is kind of my safe pick, so yeah. Next, I have Rildo. I think he would be a cool tank also, just because in GT, his whole thing was he could absorb all the metal and that sort of thing. So I think Rildo would have been a cool tank, but again, he's also a helper, so I don't think they'll add him. Because again, I don't really see him being tech, but maybe damage. But I think tank for Rildo does make a lot of sense, especially because even in Squadra actually, with his ability. The point of the helper when you drop him is that he brings all the enemies to him. He makes them target onto him with the Wrath ability. So him being tank in game would actually make so much sense. But that's it for honorable mentions. So the way we're going to do this, we're actually going to go series by series discussing who I think could be added. So first we'll start with OG Dragon Ball. First character I think would be Kid Goku. I think he would be the perfect technical character. So my criteria partially for why I pick certain characters to be technical is they're typically either supporting characters or characters who stun. That's their whole thing. So I'm thinking Kid Goku, you could give him rock, paper, scissors, for example. That'd be the perfect move for stunning because, in Dragon Ball, he pokes the enemy's eyes and that sort of thing. So I think him being a stun character would make him perfect for technical. I think that's why he could be technical. He's definitely not going to be tank. So I think technical Kid Goku makes a lot of sense. Then next we got Demon King Piccolo. Tank for him, just because this one's more of a vibes thing. I think damage could also make sense, but I don't know. He's huge, he's giant, he just feels like a tank, technically he doesn't have the healing and stuff like Piccolo Jr. has, but I don't know. He just has tank aura. You know, like I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I'm saying. He's got tank aura, so I think he'd be a tank. But for OG, that's it though, because going like through the arcs, I don't like they're not adding peel off. Like, you know, like peel off machine is a regular NPC. He's not getting a character talk. Like, yeah, I mean, I would love peel off. I think it'd be funny, but they're not doing that. So we're just gonna move on to Z now. So first character here, I have Raditz. So again, based on my criteria, I think Raditz would be technical, specifically because of how the video games handle him. So Xenoverse, for example, a lot of his moves in Xenoverse actually are for stunning. Like, he has a super attack and an ult that both stun, and then even Dokkan, which, you know, my gosh, physical Raditz and Dokkan, you know, he's memed to hell. But in his passive, he does stun. So I think Raditz as a stun character does make sense. So that's why I have him as technical. I think, again, damage is always a safe pick too, though. But I think just because of how the games handle him with all the stunning, I think he could be a tech. And again, we're also going arc by arc for this too. So next we have Yamcha as damage. So Yamcha as damage, I guess, you know what, I'll just show you all the next character too to talk about it together. I have Tien on tank. So the reason I did that is because Krillin is technical. So I think having Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin all be different roles would make sense. Because Yamcha, I guess you could maybe put Yamcha tech, but I think having the humans lane would be cool. Like a team of Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin all together. Because if you make Yamcha tech, then you can't run Krillin. So I think that's why like Yamcha would make sense. The reason I have Tien on tank though is specifically I'm thinking of like his Neo Tri-Beam or Shin Kikoho, whatever you call it. So in every game, the way that move works is you can keep clicking the input in order to use the Tri-Beam more and more and more. So you would want a lot of health to do that, which is why I think tank makes sense for Tien, because tank gives him higher health. So he'd have the ability to use the Tri-Beam. I'm assuming it would still take health, and maybe it could like push enemies away or like bring them to like the middle, kind of like the Galactic Donuts or like other moves, you know. But like there's different ways I can make it work, but just based on how the series goes, I think the Tri-Beam being used over and over, like in the way the games handle it, the health being dropped by using the Tri-Beam, I think tank makes most sense, which is why Yamcha just kind of got put down damage because that's what was left for the humans. So I'm like, yeah, Yamcha could just take damage. So that's why I got them there. And then Chaozu, I guess could be an assist character, kind of like Daima Goku with the Pansy bombs and stuff. Except I guess Chaozu like stunning would be more of a tech thing though. So I don't know. I feel like Chaozu should be involved in the animations in some capacity though. Moving on. Next we've got Great Ape Vegeta. So I have him as damage purely because I don't want every Vegeta coming out to be a tank. That might be what they do, because so far 2 seasons in, that is what they've done, but I'm gonna give it one more season before I call it a pattern. But I think damage would be cool for Great Ape Vegeta, because, you know, that was kind of his thing in the Saiyan saga. He was just kind of beating everybody up. He was just this huge like powerhouse. And then I have the Great Ape in the background because I think adding giants would be cool. The way I would want them to handle it though is make it just their ult. So have it be an AoE, kind of like how Goku's Spirit Bomb is, and then have the Great Ape, I don't know, like do a stomp or like shoot a mouth blast or something. But like maybe if they do the stomp, for example, you just see like their giant foot coming down. It just like stomps an area like Goku's Spirit Bomb. Or like they shoot like a beam or something like that. You know, something like that. I think that'd be a cool way to add Great Apes. But like I said, I just don't want them to make every Vegeta a tank. There are plenty of Vegetas they could add though, so maybe this guy could also get tank. But like right now, I'm feeling like I don't want him to be a tank, make him damage, because he does do a lot of like shooting ki blast. Like, I'm imagining like his Gallic gun would do a lot of damage. He's got like the ki blast spam, like that sort of thing. He does shoot a lot of attacks, so I think damage would make sense for Vegeta. Next, we've got the Ginyu Force. So we're on to the Frieza saga now. I also think damage for them, mostly because I don't think they'd be tank, and I would want them to be runnable with first form Frieza. I wouldn't want them to also be tech, even though I think that might make more sense. I think they should be damaged so you can run them with Frieza. The reason I have the whole Ginyu Force here though, and not just Captain Ginyu, is I think, again, they should work like Goku with Glorio and Pansy. And Yeah, with Glory and Pansy, where like you can use certain moves. So I'm thinking like one move would call in Birder and Jace. Like maybe they'll do like, I don't know, a purple comet attack or something like that. Or maybe like they'll just do some sort of like dual attack, you know? Like I'm thinking like just for the animation, because I don't think you'd be able to place them because it's more of a technical thing. Then Guldo and Raccoon would be like the other move, and then maybe depending on what you do, like I'm imagining you use like the Birder and Jace move, right? That would give you maybe like a speed buff because of Birder, and then the Guldo and Raccoon could maybe Guldo could like temporarily stun with his time freeze, and then Raccoon would give you like a damage buff, that sort of thing. I'm not sure exactly how they would make it work, because I don't think the whole Ginyu Force is getting added separately. I think the Ginyu Force would be like a combo character like this, but I don't think there'll be a tag either like the Gammas. So I'm thinking they'd be like Glorio and Pansy, where you use certain attacks to bring in certain members of the Ginyu Force. And then maybe their ult can be all of them doing something together. Oh no, the ult would be body change actually, which I think the body change should work like Baby, where like if you kill an enemy, or maybe the body change would just be a finisher actually. Now I'm thinking about it, maybe when you finish an enemy, Ginyu can just body change, and the ult can be something else. That could work actually. And yeah, I'm like I said, I'm streaming this live. I see Giblet in chat just mentioned what if they work like Bojack? That is actually a perfect example. They could be just like Bojack, because yeah, they have the exact same amount of people. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point. Yeah, the Ginyu Force could work just like Bojack with his passive. I think that actually makes more sense. I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, that's like the perfect example. Moving on now, we have Final Form Frieza. Again, I have him on damage for a specific reason we'll talk about later, because you might think tank would work for him, but I'll talk about that when I get there. But again, I just don't want him to be tech, because that's first form Frieza, so I think final form should be his own thing. He could potentially go into full power, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how they would handle it, but I think Final Form Frieza being a damage character would make a lot of sense. I mean, he shoots like a lot of death beams. He was a very strong character, you know? I mean, there's not much to say. I just think damage makes sense for him. And maybe have him go full power, potentially. It just depends on, we'll get to it when I talk about it later. But it depends on how they handle a different character. Moving on next, though, is Jiro and 19. Now, again, very low height characters, which I guess I should have mentioned, by the way, with these characters. I don't think, like, I'm not saying they're gonna add the characters in this order. Like, Jiro and 19, the only way Jiro and 19 are coming is if they're sandwiched between, like, UI Goku and, I don't know, like, full power Jiren, or, like, Broly, or so DBS Broly. They're not dropping, like, 19, not dropping 19 and 20 Yamcha and Tien for like a season. But anyway, the reason that I have them as tech is because their whole thing is like absorbing energy and sneaking away. So I'm imagining like that scene where Jiro is like grabbing Piccolo, for example. It could be like Cell's grab in Squadra, but maybe it stuns more. But they're characters that, like, you know, you kind of like absorb energy. They're not like super in the fight most of the time. They're just kind of like, you get in and get out and absorb energy, and I think that's how they should play. And they should be a tag character like the Gammas. I think that's the perfect way to make them work. I feel like any role could work for them, though. I just think tech makes the most sense because of who they are, like the way they work. I think tech would be a really good role for 19 and Jiro, because I don't really see them tank. I guess maybe, but like they weren't that tanky. And then damage is just always a safe pick, but they could maybe be tank because of the absorption. Like yeah, people are saying to Cell, yeah, because they can absorb like Cell. Yeah, like that could make sense, but yeah, I don't know. They could do it that way, but I think it'd be cool to run them with Cell potentially. So I don't know, but I think tech makes sense for them just because of who they are. Again, they just give off more tech vibes than tank vibes to me as part of it. But yeah. Next, we've got... Oh, I meant to move him down, actually. He wasn't supposed to be this high. Well, I guess we'll just talk about it, whatever. I have a section for movies, and I forgot to move him, but he's here right now. So, Super Android 13, my least favorite design in Dragon Ball. I think he would be a perfect tank, because, I mean, that was his whole thing. When he transformed into Super Android 13, he was, like, untouchable. Like, they were not doing damage to him. He was just cooking them. So I think him as, again, he just has tank energy. It makes so much sense. Him having like high health, especially after he transforms, it would make perfect sense for him to be a tank. And then again, you know, he would just have the skills that you would imagine. They could maybe include like 14 and 15 in his animations or something, but I don't know. I feel like 14 and 15 probably just won't be involved at all, to be honest. Maybe they'll be like a helper. I don't know. But if they wanted to include them, maybe in the animations. But I think 13 that transforms into Super Android 13 would be sick. Next, I got Hercule. So, okay, the only reason Hercule is here is because the developers love adding Hercule to the games. Like, he's always the troll character that they add. So if they add him, I think he'd be tech. Okay. Now, if you ask me, I think it'd be funnier if he was a tank. I think tank Hercule would be hilarious, but he'd probably be a tech because I'm imagining like, you know, yeah, Mr. Satan, some of his moves, like, when he gives Boo like the Game Boy and stuff and it blows him up, those like present for you is what that is. And then just a lot of like the moves he has, I feel like makes sense for a tech to be like stunning and you run away and stuff. I can imagine passive, he just gets like huge movement speed, but yeah, I think realistically he'd be a tech, but I think tank Hercule, I would love that. I would love tank Mr. Satan. And Giblet said he'd be a helper. Like, that's true, but again, the developers do love adding Hercule to these games. And then yeah, Purple Bun in chat is tank Hercule would be great. Yeah, I would love that. I would love tank Hercule. That'd be hilarious. Moving on though, you know, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan as damage. Just because both of the Gohans we've got right now are technical, and I don't think every Gohan should be technical. I think this Gohan as damage makes perfect sense because that was his thing. He was just putting out a lot of damage, doing I can't, like, imagine how crazy the Father-Son Kamehameha would be. Imagine the damage on that. That would be insane. Like, yeah, this Gohan as a damage would make sense, especially because of, you know, another character we're going to talk about later. I think damage fits Gohan the best, this Gohan. Moving on though, we've got Super Boo. So again, Super Boo is one I kind of just stuck damage on him as a safe pick. He could maybe go tank. I could see tank also. There is a reason I didn't put tank that we'll get to soon, but I went damage with Super Boo. Now for Super Boo, one thing I did discuss in chat the other day when I was streaming, I think they could make him a really unique character with his transformations. I think the way it should work is make it like Cell's meter, but you can decide to use it earlier or later if you want to. So like, let's say, kind of like if you guys play Dokkan, like the SDR Super Boo that has the different transformations based on health, do it like that, but with meter. So if you decide to transform super early, you turn into Bukalo instead of like Buhan, and maybe you get like extra defense or something, like an extra health, something like that. Like there's some sort of incentive. Like I'm imagining you would transform into Bukalo when you're like in a pinch and you want to live, so you just pop the transformation so you get like extra defense and health. But then if you wait till you're Buhan, maybe you do like a lot more damage, that sort of thing. I think Super Boo could actually be a very like versatile character, and I think having the meter would make him more unique in that way, that you could get the other fours. Because I'm like, they're not going to add like Bukalo as his own character, so like why not have him be here as like a option at least for a transformation? Just you can pop the meter early, but maybe the buffs just aren't as good, or like you get different buffs. I think they should just make it to where the buffs are different. Like if you go Buhan or Bukalo, you get more defense, and then Buhan's more damage, something like that, just so there's an incentive to still potentially use Bukalo. Because if the buffs are just worse, then you're like, well, why would I ever go to Bukalo? You know, like I would just wait for Buhan. Yeah, I think Super Boo, again, maybe you could go like tank with him, but again, we'll talk about it in a second why I didn't. Next, we've got, of course, the big boy, Super Vegito. Now, again, he could also maybe be tank, but the only reason I'm having him on damage is because, I mean, I'm sure you guys know Gogeta's going to be on here, but I want him to be runnable with Gogeta. And so I think that they should both, well, I'll talk about it when I get there, but I think the only other reason I could see Vegito being tanked though is, again, the way the games handle him. Like specifically, I'm thinking like Dokkan. Dokkan gives him a lot of counters, so maybe, you know, this Vegito is a tank, so he has higher health to do those counters and that sort of thing, but I don't know. Again, damage is just kind of the safe pick, but I think damage also makes sense for the fusions. Just give them a lot of it, and it works. Next character, though, is Kid Buu. So this is why I didn't have Super Buu on tank. I actually think Kid Buu being tank makes a lot of sense. I'm imagining he would work kind of like Zamasu, because you know Boo's whole thing is he can like regenerate his body and stuff, and specifically like Fighters has an animation where when you drop Boo's ult, he literally blows himself up with it, and that does happen in the anime too. Well, like the manga and everything, like that happens in Dragon Ball. Boo blows himself up, so I think him being a tank and having an ult similar to Zamasu's actually makes a lot of sense. But I feel like Tank Kid Boo would be so crazy, like he'd be an annoying character to fight. But I do think that's why, again, I have Boo or Super Boo on damage, because then you can run Tech, right, like Fat Boo, damage Super Boo, and then Tank Kid Boo. That's why I have Super Boo there, and because I think Kid Boo as tank actually makes perfect sense. Moving on, though, we've got the movies. This is where Android 13 was supposed to be. I forgot to move them down, but it's fine. So specifically, this is just the Z movies, because Super, I just kind of count all of that as one. So we're just talking about the Z movies here. So first, Turles. Again, Turles is one that maybe they don't add him, but I think if they want to do more movie characters, I mean, they've already got Broly and Cooler now, so those are like the two main movie characters. I feel like Turles is another one that they typically do like add when they're doing movie characters. I think he'd be a damage, probably just, you know, to fit Goku. I think the only other role you could argue is tank, because of him eating the fruit and powering up. I could see that, honestly. Again, I was just kind of debating on it. I was like, maybe tank, but it is just Turles. But I guess tank would make sense with the fruit, but I could also just see him being damage. I'm not sure. But I just went with damage because I feel like, you know, he does power up like that, but I feel like more than anything, he was just like destroying, like shredding down like health bars and stuff, you know, in the movie. So I think him having damage is like, that's why I gave him damage, just because I think his attack power was like the biggest focus of the movie, rather than like him being like this unstoppable truck type of thing, you know. Then next I've got Lord Slug. Again, I just kind of threw him on damage too, because I was like, would he be technical? I don't know what technical moves they would give him. And then I guess maybe tank, but especially because he doesn't go giant, I'm like, probably not. But again, Lord Slug is just because it's another movie character, and they've kind of used up a lot of the movie characters already. So I think Lord Slug would be a great pick for a movie character to put in here. But I could maybe see it being like tank or something, but I don't know. Next, we got Metal Cooler. So I actually have him on technical for a specific reason. I think he should be able to revive. I think if you like, you know, knock him down, you know, you drop his health bar all the way, then he can just revive right away with another cooler. Maybe he just has really low health is his thing, but that is why I went technical with him, because if he's tank, he's got too much health to do that. I guess you could go damage, because that's always the safe pick, but I think Metal Cooler as tech would make so much sense for his revives, because techs already have pretty low health. So just make Cooler like have, I guess, lower health or less defense or something, and then he's able to like revive. I think that makes it more fair for him. So yeah, I think Metal Cooler as tech makes sense actually for that reason. Like I said, the only other one I could see is damage, but I don't think tank for him, because you would want, like, I guess if they don't do the revive thing, then tank, sure. But I'm thinking like they want him to come back to life a lot, because I'm imagining tank Meta Cooler with the revives, he'd be too broken. So I think tech for him is more fair. Then next we've got, of course, Super Gogeta. So again, I gave him damage just because I don't think either fusion's going to be tech. So I think damage makes the most sense for them, other than maybe Vegito tank. But I think Gogeta damage and Vegito damage makes sense. I was like, since they're both like fusions, you know, it's both Gogeta and Vegito. Also, I want to preface this, by the way, by saying both fusions, like Vegito and Gogeta, I'm not going to talk about the Blues or Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta later, because I kind of feel the same way about all of them. I think they all, like, whatever I'm saying about them here, they would all be the same. Not Sweet Chat might go. This is actually my favorite character in Dragon Ball. So yeah, I'm with you there. But yeah, I was like damage just because I feel like both fusions would be pretty similar. But I'm not going to talk about the Blues or 4, because I feel like I wouldn't really have anything new to say about them that I'm not already saying here. But yeah, I think damage for them is just a safe pick. They do a lot of damage. That is kind of their thing. So yeah, like damage does make sense for them. Like I said, maybe Vegito tank for the counters, but if no counters, then I think damage for them does work. Oh, I forgot to put I forgot to put Janemba. Like, I had his picture saved and everything. Well, okay, Janemba would be tank. I'll just say that right now. Janemba tank, yeah, like that makes perfect sense. Maybe damage, but I think tank would make the most sense for him. But yeah, I had his image saved and everything. I just forgot to put it on here. Whoops. Well, Janemba is someone I considered, y'all. So next we're going on to GT, and yeah, Nasui saying I can mess with damage on Gogeta, but yeah, next GT. First, we got Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I just put him on damage because, again, I don't think he's a tech character, but I want him runnable with Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. So I think him being damaged would make the most sense. I don't think they give him tank also, especially because, again, that'd be lame. I want to run Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta together, man. So he's got to be damaged. Of course, next is Super 17. Tank on Super 17 because, again, that is like his whole thing. You know, his whole thing is he tanks Ki Blasts and all this damage to absorb it and get stronger. Like, I don't think there's been a more tank character on the list. Like, there's no way you're arguing he's tech or damage. Like, he literally is a tank. Like, that's his whole thing. That's what Super 17 is. Nobody can beat me when I'm Super 17. And yeah, he's literally a tank. That's his whole thing. Next, I've got the Shadow Dragons. Now, again, so okay, this one you would be mostly playing as Sin, so maybe tank for that reason. But I put the Shadow Dragons again, kind of like now that someone in chat brought up the Bojack thing, I think that's how they would work too. Specifically, though, I should mention this is the Shadow Dragons, not including Ice and Nova, because they're going to be next. I'm just going to spoil that right now. It would just be the other Shadow Dragons. Rage Shenron's not in this image, but oh yeah, there he is right there. The other 4 Shadow Dragons. But I could see him maybe tank. Again, I just went damage for the safe, because I guess Omega being tank would make a lot of sense, huh? I don't know. I guess I was just thinking of it as all the Shadow Dragons and not just Omega or just Sin. Like, if I had just put Sin or Omega by himself, I probably would have went tank, but I'm thinking all the Shadow Dragons. But I guess he could still be tank. I don't know. But I think he could get added with the other Shadow Dragons because the reason I did all the Shadow Dragons, I don't think there's going to be representation for all the Shadow Dragons otherwise. But maybe they don't put them just so they can focus on Sin and Omega. But I think damage could make sense for him, but I don't know. Next, we've got Ice and Nova, though, as a tag character, like the Gammas. I think they would be technical because, you know, Ice's whole thing is he freezes people, Nova burns people. So, like, that would be their ways to stun. And yeah, I guess that was the other reason I put Sin as damage, by the way, is because then you could run them with these two. You could run them in a lane together. But I guess, like, you could still go tank for him. But anyway, I think them as a tag character, being tech with stunning, would make a lot of sense. Next, though, we're moving on to Dragon Ball Super, because, yeah, that's basically it for GT. I don't think there's anyone else in GT that would be relevant enough to get added. Anyway, though, Dragon Ball Super, first we got the gods. So I kind of just put these two together. They would be their own individual characters, obviously, but it would be God Goku and God Vegeta separately that transform into blue. I went with damage for them just because again, they're not going to be tech. I don't want every Vegeta to be tank either. I guess maybe they could do a tank Goku here, but they would be individual characters though. I guess you could make them a tag character, but I think at first they'd probably add them separately. I just decided to put them both together here so I could talk about them at the same time, because I don't have anything different to say about either one. Like I said, maybe you could argue God Goku as tank, but honestly, I think damage makes sense, and then you could run damage Vegeta, damage Goku together. It would make a lot of sense. And again, I don't want every Vegeta to be a tank, so he's got to be damage. Next, we've got Golden Frieza. Again, I've got him on tank, so this is why I was mentioning earlier why I made Final Form Frieza damage, because I think Golden Frieza should be the tank. Because, you know, high health, like it's his golden form. He could have high health, do a lot of damage, that sort of thing. Like, he absorbs a lot of damage. I mean, in the movie, that was his thing. Like, he was on par with them. He was only really taking damage when, you know, his form was starting to run out. But I think Golden Frieza as a tank makes perfect sense. And then you've got, you know, first form Frieza tech, final form damage, and then golden tank. I think that all makes perfect sense. Again, this is why I was saying maybe they do full power Frieza for the other one, because I'm not sure if they would make this Frieza start final form and then transform into Golden, or if he would just start as Golden Frieza, because that's the only thing. I don't think we've seen them do, like, you know, like imagine like you start as Final Form Frieza for the other one. If you start as Final Form Frieza for this one, like, we haven't seen them do that, where you start in the same form with 2 different characters. So they just might straight up not do Namek Frieza, or maybe have him start in like 3rd form. I don't know, but I do think he could be a tank. Someone brought up Topo in chat. Like, yeah, I guess he could just start off in his form, like his final form, like Topo. That could make sense because Topo just didn't get his base form. That's why I was saying they could either do just Golden Frieza straight up or do final form into Golden. But if they do that, I don't think we get Namek Frieza, because then you've got 2 final form Friezas running around, and I don't think they want to do that. So I think he could just start Golden. But either way, I think tank makes sense for him. Next, we've got Goku Black. So this one's obvious. He has to be damaged so you can run him with Zamasu. It's that simple. Like, I don't see a universe where he's not damaged. If he's tech, huh? Like, no. And he's not going to be tank, because then you can't run him with Zamasu. The whole point is Goku Black and Zamasu fight together. So you have to have him as damage. Like, it's that easy. And again, I think he'd be base that goes into Rose, and they would look so sick. Honestly, I could see him coming like next season or something. Maybe that's their way to slide in a Goku for next season. We'll see. But yeah, Goku Black would be perfect. And again, he has to be damaged to run with Zamasu. Next, speaking of Zamasu, is Fusion Zamasu. I think he could get his own character. Maybe have like an intro where Goku Black and Zamasu fuse. And he should be a tank. Because I don't think he'll be tech. And I think that just, like, you know, his whole thing is the immortality, kind of like Zamasu. Even though he's like not fully immortal anymore, but I guess specifically what I'm referring to is just the fact he like evolves a lot throughout the fight and then gets like the purple arm and everything like that. So I think him as a tank could work really well. The only other one would be damage, just in case you wanted to run Goku Black, Zamasu, and Fusion Zamasu. But honestly, I think him, like, if you can't run regular Zamasu and you got Fusion Zamasu as the tank, I think that works fine. Especially if he gets his purple arm form, I think he would have that. And that's why I think tank, because he like grows and gets more powerful throughout the fight, like, very quickly. That's why I think tank would actually be fitting for him, especially because Zamasu's already tank, so it does make sense. Next, we got Kefla. I think she'd be damage, maybe tank also, because Caulifla is tank. But I went damage just because we've already got tank Caulifla and Kale is damage, so they could make her work more like Kale potentially, just because of like the explosive damage that she could do. But I get like tank could make sense also, but I think damage is just a safer pick. But just because, again, like her whole thing was she did explosive damage like Kale, and again Kale's already damage and Caulifla's tank, so I think Kefla would just get one of those two. I just think, you know, damage makes more sense because of like how Kale works. And then next we've got, okay, now hear me out. I know the chat and you guys in the comments are gonna go crazy for this one, but hear me out. I don't think UI Goku gets tank because his whole thing is you know, he dodges. So I don't think he's gonna be tank. Damage maybe, but I'm thinking tech because of his dodging. That's my point. Like, his whole thing is that he dodges damage and that sort of thing. So I think him being tech, like really fully leaning into the dodging, makes sense. So I honestly think UI Goku on tech, specifically UI Sign, I think UI Sign on tech could actually work really well with the way Ultra Instinct works. I've seen, yeah, people in chat are cooking me and knocking me. He's like, oh fuck no. Some people are like, that's my pick. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think tech could work because of his dodging. That's kind of his whole thing. He dodges around, because I think him being damaged and being able to dodge like that would be too broken. So I think if you make his dodging broken as a tech, it balances it more. And he's not going to be tank because he doesn't take damage. But yeah. Oh, if you guys didn't like him in tech, then how would hit make sense? Yeah, like, again, like, yeah, like hit's whole things, he time skips and dodges around. That's a perfect example in chat. Like, yeah, that's a great example. That's why I think UI Goku with the dodging makes sense as a tech. But again, I know this one's going to be controversial. Anyway, though, next we've got full power Jiren. Again, tank. Makes sense. He is buff, full power Jiren. I mean, he's built like a tank. Like, look at this screenshot of him. He's literally tank sized. So, yeah, you said free. UI's definitely going to transform. He's going to be a tank. No, he's not going to be tank. But yeah, full power Jiren would be a tank. UI Goku would transform. Yeah, you're right. But Jiren on tank, yeah, like it's Jiren. Like that's kind of his whole thing. He's like, I don't think there's any argument with this one. Like, I don't think we even need to discuss it for too long. Next, we've got Broly, DBS Broly as a tank. Again, kind of the same thing I said about Fusion Zamasu, where he grows and gets stronger as the fight progresses. So I think him as a tank would make sense, especially because we have Z Broly as damage already. So I think DBS Broly tank would be awesome. Again, I thought Z Broly should have been a tank, but maybe they're saving it for DBS Broly. I think him as a tank is perfect. Next, we've got Orange Piccolo. Now, okay, the only reason I didn't go tank with him was I just did it, what, like 50 takes? Well, okay, there's actually another reason I didn't go tank with him that we're going to get to in a second. But damage on Orange Piccolo. Again, we've already got a damage Piccolo, but there's only one. So I think him being damage makes sense. I'm just going to talk about the next character already. It's Beast Gohan. This is why I have Orange Piccolo on damage, because I want Beast as tank, so that way you can run them together. I think Beast as tank makes it. I mean, if you saw what Beast was doing in the movie, then it makes sense. And then again, we've got Super Saiyan 2 Gohan on damage. We've got Kid Gohan on tech, so Beast should be tank. That's the only reason Orange Piccolo is damage, because I actually think Beast tank makes a lot of sense, because I get literally like the first thing he does is Cell Max tries to hit him and he just tanks that shit. That's his whole thing. So that's why I have Piccolo on damage, because I think Beast should be tank, because then we get a Gohan tank. Otherwise there's no Gohan tank, and I think there should be one for like a Gohan in each role. Like, yeah, why not? I think Beast tank would be awesome. And next we're moving on to Dragon Ball Daima, the final segment of the video. So first, of course, we've got Majin Buu and Majin Ku. I think they should be a tag character and they should be tech. Again, they're kind of weaker characters, so them just having moves that can like stun and do that sort of thing would be sick. And again, I think they should be a tag like the Gammas. I think that would make the most sense. And then Buu could have like his Super Saiyan 3 transformation and all of that. So I think them being like a tag character makes sense. And I'm like, yeah, tech. Because they don't really fight super hard. Next, we've got Goma as tank. I actually think Goma, because I don't think they'll add his giant form. I think he should start as little like gremlin base form Goma and then transform. But the reason he's tank is, I mean, it's obvious. The third eye literally makes him stronger as he fights. So I think him being third eye, like with the third eye, he should be tank. Like that makes perfect sense. So tank Goma would be my pick. Next, I've got damage Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Again, I think I just kind of hate every Vegeta being tank. I will say, if Daima gets added later on down the line, like way down the line, maybe this Vegeta could be tank. Maybe. But I think damage for him would be good though. I think that would be the best pick. And then next we've also got, I kind of just slapped Super Saiyan 4 Goku on the damage too. He could be the way we get a tank Goku. I just feel like the way I've been basing tanks off of this list, I don't think Goku as a character really fits tank, but I could see the argument for this guy to be tank, just because then it's the opposite of what we got from GT. So, you know, we've got Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta as tank, and then Super Saiyan 3 Goku as damage. They could flip it here with Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta as damage and Super Saiyan 4 as tank. I just think damage for him makes sense because of, you know, my criteria for tank characters. I've been typically going after like the buff characters that like Broly, that sort of thing. I mean, I guess Daima is buff as hell. I don't mean buff in that way, but you know, like characters like Broly, who are just these giant like powerhouses type of thing. I think you could argue that tank for him, but I just went damage because again, I just tank Goku. I think this could be a way we get tank Goku, but I just don't think they'll make it tank Goku as part of it. But yeah, that's it for the list though. That's all the characters I had. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna end the video. Let me know if you guys in the chat and in the comments, if you guys had any other characters that I should add, or if you guys like disagreed with any of my takes, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agreed with any of my takes, if there's any character I missed, anything like that. So yeah, that's it for me though for this video. Thank y'all for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed. Make sure, if you like this video, share it around to your grandma, grandpa, manager, coworkers, whoever you want to share it to. And yeah, till next time, see y'all later. Peace. Have a good day or night, y'all.